course, one of the things that we've had to grapple with is the fact that when Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats had the majority in the House, for 2 years they did not pass a budget. So we are having to be burdened with the thought of putting forth a continuing resolution through the rest of the year to keep government running. We did that. We worked very hard on what's called H.R. 1, or the continuing resolution, to cut $100 billion worth of spending and regulations out, to get rid of the wasteful and redundant spending that's there. Of course, there again, we passed it in the House. It sits with Harry Reid. We knew that was probably going to be the case, but we felt very strongly that we had to keep to our word with the $100 billion. So we said, fine. We'll pass short-term continuing resolutions on a couple-week periods of time, cutting out the same amount of money that would be the equivalent to $100 billion over the next few months. So ultimately what we've done is cut $10 billion over a 5-week period, which will end April 8th, which is 1/10 of the way to where we want to go. And we may have to keep on that path, depending on what we hear from the Senate. Now, many people say, fine, go ahead and shut down the government. I don't really know that shut down the government is really the correct term, because there will still be things that will be funded. There will be parts of the government that will still continue, because there will still be revenue coming into the government. The problem is, the person who gets to pick and choose who gets paid and who doesn't is the president. I don't want to give Barack Obama the correct right that he has to pick and choose who gets paid. That's too much power. And what we would end up doing is we would just be adding more chaos, more mess onto already a mounting mess that already exists. We wouldn't be doing any more than what the other side did when they were in the majority. We've got to change that. So we are committed. And there was a little friction in our own party this past CR. Not on the basic goal, but on the process. And I have a little bit of an issue with that because it was the wrong way to do it. We showed weakness. We should have been showing strength. And there were more of us that wanted that than that smaller majority that didn't. The very good news is that when that vote finally did come up, we had a number of Democrats voting with us, which proves that bipartisan support says we've got to make these cuts. We've got to keep the plan rolling because we've got to be working on these other issues that are so much more important. And that's what we need to be doing. And I will also add to that with the vote to repeal Obamacare, that $700 billion we're decreasing from the deficit and $2.5 billion over 10 years. Couple that with the $100 billion and more cuts to come, we are going to get this country back on track. And the goal here is not so much for you and I sitting here tonight, it's for our children and our grandchildren. We cannot continue on this path of massive spending. That is where the problem is. We don't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. Again, we are getting there. We are united in our party, and that is very good news. You know, when I went to Washington, that was one of the big questions that I got. What do you think? Do you think leadership is going to agree with the freshmen? Do you think that you're going to kind of butt heads because, you know, you all are such a big class and, you know, they're going to have that elitist Republican mindset? That has not been how it is. It's actually been very good. Leadership has worked with us. Leadership has been incredibly open and helpful to us. I can't even tell you how, between themselves and their staff, they have just helped us in so many different ways setting up our offices, understanding the issues that are at hand, and it has been a true bonding relationship. And we will continue on this path. There isn't, in Washington, we don't have this idea of there are some who are conservative and then there are others who are more conservative. And, as a Republican, you can be a rhino. None of that matters right now. We can't keep judging how conservative we are. That is not what we need to be doing. What we need to be doing is being united for the goal of saving our future for our children. I want to be able to have our children have a better future than we had. And right now, I can't say that that's the case. If we don't turn things around, if we don't work to this goal, then we're all going to be in trouble, and our children and our grandchildren are going to pay for it. Every baby that's born right now owes over $45,000 more in debt than we did. You're going to hear it referred to as the birth tax, because that's essentially what it is. It's going to be, we're going to prove to you that each family owes $120,000 plus today because of all the spending and the deficit and debt that we are incurring. 42 cents of every dollar that's spent in this country now is borrowed from other countries. China being the largest holder, Japan being the second largest holder. That's very scary. That is very scary, and we have got to turn that around. And we are committed to it. It's a hard road. We need you to stick with us. What we need for you to do is start calling your senators. Start calling Richard Burr. Start calling Kay Hagan. Tell them that H.R. 1 is probably going to come back to the Senate, and they need to vote on it so that we can do what we need to do, which is save this country for our children. And then the sooner we can do that, the better off we're all going to be. And I need that help from you, because that is going to be our goal, and the sooner we do it, the better off we're all going to be. And I hope you can stick with me on that. And when you hear those things out there, some people in Washington like to put themselves out in the forefront a little more than others, when they maybe feel like the spotlight's not on them. We can't fall into that trap. And unfortunately, we see that. And we see that in the Republican Party as well as the Democrat Party. It goes across the board. But you know what? They're all our children. It doesn't matter what party you belong to. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what kind of money you make. We all have to be sticking together to save our children. And I hope that you can do that with me. I hope that we can stick together, all of us, regardless of party, and do what we need to do for our children. And I thank you for being here tonight, because this large of a crowd tells me that you all care as much as I do about where our country is going and what we're leaving our children with. So I thank you, and thank you for allowing me to speak to you tonight.